Talking to Death is released every Friday and brought to you absolutely free. But if you want ad-free listening and exclusive bonuses, subscribe to Tenderfoot Plus at tenderfootplus.com or on Apple Podcasts.
Talking to Death is a production of TenderfootTV and iHeart Podcasts. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Talking to Death. If you're a fan of Conspiracies and the Unexplained, you're going to love this week's guest. Matthew Frederick is a co-host of the iHeart podcast, Stuff They Don't Want You to Know, where he dives deeply into conspiracies. Matt Frederick is a good friend of Payne's and the entire Tenderfoot family. He's an executive producer on Atlanta Monster and Talking to Death, among many other shows from Tenderfoot. In this episode, Payne and Matt talk about their favorite conspiracies. They talk about aliens, they talk about podcasting, music. They even give their thoughts about the recent Trump assassination attempt. So without further ado, this week, Matthew Frederick.
Well, we're back, man. Matthew Frederick. I've known you for a long time, man. Ever since I've started podcasting, I think I've known you. Do you remember the first time we met?
I think I do. It was back in 2017, and you came into the office, and we just kind of had a hang. It was like right after you met Jason Hoke, and we're hanging out with him, you and Donald, and yeah, I was nervous as hell, man. I was like...
to meet me? Why?
Yeah, well, to meet you guys.
In 2017 especially?
Yeah, no, for real, because you guys were already creating something that Ben and Nolan and I, who make Stuff They Don't Want You to Know, we were envious of like putting together a story like that went so far in depth the way you guys were working on one. Because, you know, in our show, we cover like one topic for an hour roughly, and that's what you get. And we put all our research into it, but you don't get to follow the rabbit holes, which are the most fun parts usually.
Right. So you were used to, I mean, I guess the format of your show is you tell a lot more stories, really. And, you know, there isn't necessarily 12 dedicated episodes on one topic, because by episode 10 of any topic, you're definitely deep into some rabbit hole, whatever it is, good or bad, right?
Yeah, usually pretty bad.
Usually it could be bad.
Yeah. But no, but it was really cool, man, because you guys were, look, I'm about to turn 41, like in just a couple days now. And you guys just seemed really young and had that energy of that we remembered. And I'm specifically thinking about Ben and I, that we remembered having when we started making our show back in like 2009, 2008, something like that. And we just were like, dang, I wish I could be like that again.
That young whippersnapper who's only like a couple of years younger than me.
I know, but you guys had an energy that was just different, I think. But yeah, man, it was awesome to meet you. It was awesome to work with you and Donald in particular on Atlanta Monster. That's I get this like vision sometimes of going into that vault that we got to go to.
Oh yeah.
You and Jason talked about it extensively, but man, that just seeing all of that archival footage and audio and then getting to delve into it and find like the little gems that stuck out and then getting to make a show.
Yeah, for context, we're talking about the podcast that we did together called Atlanta Monster, which is really the first time we met was working on that together. And at the University of Georgia, there's a library that has a legitimate downstairs vault that feels like you're going into some, government archives or something.
Yeah.
And it felt as cool as it sounded in the podcast. And it was huge in there. And they had all these old tapes, film reels of news clips that have really probably been sitting there for, I don't know, decades and never been seen or watched or transcribed. And we got to, they helped us out a lot. And they went through a bunch of that tape. And it was just crazy. I remember just going through and just hitting spacebar on the QuickTime files when we got them back and just seeing all these different news reports. And just, it was like a moment in time captured that it felt special to be looking at because it was otherwise lost until we got our hands on it.
Well, yeah, they needed a reason to digitize it. But dude, it was like looking at this city we lived in and like the history of that city, since at least before we were born.
Right. Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about. It was just sitting in a vault, like FBI style, like in all the TV shows, X-Files and all these shows I used to love. There's like this secret FBI vault, and we found it and we got to make a show with it.
Yeah, that was a good time. And that was right after I made Up and Vanish. It's funny that you said that you were nervous meeting me.
Yeah.
Donald and I were nervous meeting you guys because we looked at how stuff works and iHeart. You guys have been doing podcasts for a long time, and we were totally new to this game. And we didn't know if we were doing it right or if we were stepping on toes or if we could, befriend anybody, if we would be let into the club. So we had a lot of, sort of our own self-doubt. But it's been cool ever since I met Jason Hoke that one day, and which became sort of the first conversation leading into making Atlanta Monster together. It's only been super cool with you guys, and it's amazing that all these years later we're still making projects together.
Yeah, man.
And we've
this
made
shirt,
a lot.
Yeah, this shirt, I wore this specifically today because I wore this on Dr. Oz when you and I were on together. So I was like, I'm wearing my Dr. Oz shirt.
You need to get a new shirt.
No, I only have one, dude. This is it. This is the one.
So you're saying you wore your only shirt.
Yes.
It's not just your Dr. Oz shirt. It's your It's your regular doctor shirt. It's your DMV shirt. It's your
man.
Out to eat with
pet
your
store,
shirt.
magic card shop. Yeah, all that. Same one.
It means a nice shirt. I like it. I approve. So your show is super fun. We talked to Ben before on Talking to Death, and we had a good chat. Stuff they don't want you to know. And I think it's just a super fun concept. And I just kind of want to know from you, at what age do you think that you started finding interest in, I don't know, the unknown or unexplained, or, I'll say the word conspiracy theories, just stuff that is, scratches at your brain that, you can dig into. Not everyone has that sort of itch. And I'm just curious for you, when that bug bit you and how that kind of became into fruition later in your life.
So I grew up in the church. I was a kid that was super dedicated to it. For some reason, I latched onto it. And all the questions I ever had about the universe and the world and how it worked were answered with a book, right? I have my Bible that I just gave to my son, by the way. He's going to church with his mom now. And I just gave him my New International Version of the Bible. And
have they changed chapters or something? Is it?
No. It was just like...
Are they cool with gay people now or what?
Well, some of the churches are. I grew up in the Methodist church, and there's a whole thing you can look up right now if you want to about the Methodist church and division between people who feel very strongly, very differently about that subject.
Oh, really? That's like a big division, and
yeah. But
Methodist.
It is. Well, for a lot of different churches, but for that one it was.
Yeah.
But I grew up in that stuff, and I learned how to play drums early on when I was a kid, like in middle school, and then I played drums in the church, and I was doing, youth group and all that stuff. That was like my world. My whole world was kind of wrapped around stories about God and visions of God, and he is basically the answer to the stuff that we don't understand, right?
Okay.
And then I go to college, and I start taking classes, like science classes, history classes, and my world kind of opens up quite a bit, just the way I think about things. And
what changed for you? Did you just find potentially new answers for things?
Well, it's actually the crux of my interest in this stuff. I found new answers that felt to be so contradictory to the ones I held so close to myself about how the world worked and the history of it. That
you mean like Adam and Eve or something, or what?
Adam and Eve, some of the basic stories in the Bible that I took to be like 100% true, like Noah was definitely on that ark, and like this is all happening, and this is all real. The plagues were definitely exactly happened that way, And then as I'm, learning more about history and science, it breaks me a little bit in that I feel like I'm not necessarily been lied to, but something's been pulled over my eyes, and it made me want to pull back every veil I could possibly locate for everything and anything.
Wow.
which really pushed me down that pathway.
What was the first big one, you think? Like something like evolution?
The first thing that really broke me was biology. It was like an advanced biology class, and just the intricacy of how all the biochemical stuff works, and and the simplest thing of how oxygen actually travels through your body, and then once it goes through the capillaries, how it gets to other tissues, and you're just like, what? And and a lot of people would hear that and then take that to, well, okay, yeah, God created that, or that is the system that the creator made to work that way. But then if you pair that up with some of the other more advanced classes, you start to learn, oh no, these are systems that have evolved for sure over the course of millions and millions and millions and millions of years.
Right.
And we can actually answer a lot of these things that I used to put in that column, just God. Like, oh no, there's actually a system that that makes the planets move in this way, and that makes a pulsar be a thing.
So do you still believe in God or Jesus?
Personally, I'm out of the dogma stuff, and especially having a son, I'm encouraging him to get into it, because I feel like it shaped me a lot as a person.
Sure.
Knowing that stuff, learning and viewing the world in that way. But yeah, no, I'm kind of out of the dogma camp. I'm more hippie style, I think, the way my parents used to be.
Which like what?
Just
smoking weed?
No, I don't do that. But it's more of the universe. Like, I'm looking out at a bunch of trees in a backyard right now, and I look at all of that stuff. You can view it as individual trees or as one big living system that we're all kind of a part of. And we put drywall around ourselves and talk into microphones sometimes, and look at screens that have shiny things on them that just playing Elden Ring all night. That's what I do. But ultimately we're a part of that stuff out there.
But really, we should be taking some mushrooms and laying in the grass and taking this shit in. I mean that's not even a joke, really. That's just what we should be doing today, I think.
Look, don't do drugs, okay?
No, I meant
do drugs.
Talkie.
Yes. But again, through stuff they don't want you to know, the things that we've learned over the years, and now medical research is going into this, mental health research into psychedelics and what it can do to open up, well, people call it the third eye, but open up that part of you that gets so calcified in this world and in the systems that we create, and just let you remember that, nah, you're just out there, man. Part of that stuff.
So some of those drugs that you take, like mostly the hallucinogenic drugs, there is some oddities in that a lot of people have very similar specific experiences, even down to like visualizations of like creatures and stuff. And I bet, I'm sure you know even more about this stuff than I do, just based on the podcast that you create. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that, if somebody has taken some sort of drug and they're experiencing something the exact same across the world, and it's never been planted in their head to see this little elf in the corner of the room, or whatever it is, do you feel like these are real things, or our brain just chemically creates it? Or do you actually feel like there's a veil that is sort of looser or clearer in some way?
Man, I wish I had an answer to that.
What's your personal opinion, or where do you lean towards?
I'll tell you a quick story. When I was end of college, right out of college, there was this stuff called salvia. You remember that? You ever?
Oh no, I did salvia.
Okay, I did it once.
I did it once as well, just once.
Well, sorry to everybody out there. Again, don't do drugs. I was a young man.
Don't do salvia.
But I did salvia with a bunch of friends, like in a safe place, good setting. Everything was awesome. And I tried the stuff and I didn't think it had an effect. So I tried it again. And I experienced, it's the only thing I've ever experienced that's kind of like that, like getting to machine elves kind of territory with DMT.
Right.
But I became a pixel in the center of this huge kaleidoscopic circular structure. And my sense of being and reality and like nervous system, everything was focused on this one pixel that was kind of at the top center of this thing. And I was attempting to navigate through a maze, and I felt like I did it for a lifetime. And I woke up apparently screaming for my now ex-wife, my girlfriend at the time.
Wow.
Like a little baby. Like I was terrified so much that my existence, everything I knew went into that pixel. And that's what I was.
Wait, so you're looking at a pixel. Is it like a little miniature version of you, or you just...
Imagine a huge, flat, circular structure, and I am a single pixel on this thing that
you can see yourself, or I feel that is you.
I know that it's me, but I'm also viewing it from above the circular thing, which
you
is
can
just
see and feel it.
Yes, dude, I know that's so insane.
You got the good stuff.
Well, apparently, I thought it was the bad one because I think it has to do with my sensory input, because they were playing some really crazy music track that. It had this repetitive, like broken rhythm to it, like drum track to it. And the way the thing was moving in this, like...
That's not helping at all.
Bro, it was bad.
Play something else.
But the whole point of that is that I hadn't taken any other drugs. I wasn't drinking that night. I wasn't doing anything that would affect my state of being, right? I take this one substance into my lungs momentarily, and... my brain completely ceases to function in the way it should with all of the systems it's attached to, and I become something else, feel like I'm something else, and then I'm shifted right back into reality, or like pulled back, you know? And I feel like there's something going on there with a lot of these different substances. I think even to some extent, if you look at a bigger picture, some of the sugars that we all eat all the time, every day, some of the, just some of the stuff we're probably not supposed to be eating that gets manufactured and then
pretty much everything.
Well, yeah, I think it's on a much larger scale. So it's a combination of all those things and all those dyes and all that stuff. And it just courses through our body. All the microplastics that are in all of our scrotums and testicles, by the way, guys, you saw that, right?
What the fuck?
There's microplastics.
I did not see that.
In pretty much every scrotum.
Not in mine, there's not.
Bro, you got to get them checked. I'm telling you.
You checked? How do you check for microplastics in your ball sack?
There was a wide enough study with enough subjects that was basically like, yeah, this is, there's microplastics there. There's also microplastics in most of our bodies, and the forever chemicals that we, PFAS, the per and polyfluoral alkyl substances, the stuff like Teflon and all that, it's coursing through our bodies in our bloodstream because it will not go away. It cannot go away. It can't be broken down.
Wow.
Yeah,
so
it's great.
Microplastics for the layperson, which is going to be me in this situation. Like, what literally is a microplastic, and how micro are they, and where the hell are they coming from? Is it just from like the ocean and us throwing shit out there and it breaking down and we're consuming it, or what are we talking about here?
It's from, we are talking like microscopic pieces of plastic,
like under a microscope, like
tiny little pieces of plastic.
But it's plastic still.
Yes,
just little tiny baby plastic pieces.
Yeah, it's an oil-based substance, came out of the ground, got turned into that stuff, and at some point, all of the plastic containers that have ever existed start to break down, whether through the recycling process, going into the groundwater, breaking down over time, which is a long time for them to break down, or getting into the ocean and getting nipped at by different animals, then that just kind of flowing out through the oceans, trash that just gets thrown in all the waterways. Bro, it's insane. And we just drink the water, and some of them are tiny enough. Yeah. And the same thing with Teflon. We talked to this lawyer who was suing, I can't even remember the name. I think it was called Dark Waters or Dark Water. It was an attorney who was fighting this fight about forever chemicals in the water sources where the cattle were drinking from. And it was the forever chemicals were getting into the cattle, and then it was affecting the fish in the water sources. And then all the townsfolk started having crazy high rates of cancer. It's just, but it's happening everywhere.
Well, I mean, there's plastic everywhere, and there has been for a long time. That's just its own problem. But this is, I guess, one of the side effects of that, right?
Yeah, and it can affect fertility. which, yay. There's already a fertility issue going on in the world.
Right.
And the microplastics and specifically those forever chemicals are like causing the big problems. At least that's what it looks like right now.
Are they just too small? Are they too small to get rid of? Like,
yeah.
Can we filter these things out, or is there a scientist working on a little drop you can put in a drink and it kills it? Or, I mean, is it...
You can't break.
Is there any hope there?
You can separate it probably, but you'd have to do it at somehow the filtration level. Like if you imagine a water processing plant, you could probably do it, but good Lord, it would be expensive, I bet, to get that kind of thing. Because you really start looking at some of these problems, especially if you have a kid, like a child. If you look at these problems and
what's your biggest fear having a kid right now? I mean, it's definitely, he's growing up in a different world than you and I did. But as a parent, I don't have any kids. What's your fear?
It's social media and interactions on the internet. I mean, and the
in which way? Just being exposed to it and how that shapes his perception?
Yeah. For me, it's worldview. Like, how do you see the world around you? How do you see the people around you? And the filters that you end up putting in front of you shape the color and the shape of the people and the words that are coming at you, right? So like, and I feel like social media and just, again, a lot of the junk information that just exists out there right now that kind of flows. Like I've got an Instagram page for stuff that I want you to know that I try and keep, and I'll scroll through it sometimes, and I feel like my brain is it's like dying. There's some cool stuff depending on who you follow, and like I really like watching stuff from shows I like even if it's promotional content, I actually like that. But then,
like what?
Videos, especially like when High Strange came out, dude, I loved all of that promo content. Like I was eating that up. I ate that show up in general. Oh yeah,
yeah. That was a fun passion project, and I mean we loved shooting some of the visual elements for that.
Yeah,
just getting weird with it.
Just floating around. It's cool.
just going to space, I guess.
It's awesome. But anyway, that stuff, I think social media and all that stuff really worries me. I feel like an old crotchety almost 41-year-old saying that.
Right.
But
I know, it's crazy. I watched this video the other day, and it was Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter. Mm-hmm. And he was doing some sort of seminar or something, and someone was filming. And I'm gonna botch this, but he said basically that in the next 5 to 10 years, the content on the internet is going to become completely, like, you will not be able to tell what is real and what is not. It completely indiscernible to anyone's eyes or ears, and that it's going to become crucial, like in this 5 to 10 year stint where we're adapting to that or figuring out how we verify and validate it, that we really put on our thinking caps and, do actual critical thinking, which I feel like in a lot of ways, the accessibility of the internet and as it's expanded even in my own lifetime, it has made it easier to not have to use critical thinking.
Yeah.
And so I could totally get behind this sort of fear of the masses almost never having learned how to critically think, and everyone just kind of just going to believe whatever they want to believe. And does truth matter anymore? Right?
Dude, I hope so. That's what Ben and Nolan and I do every week, 5 times a week. We're just like, guys, let's think. And
seriously, yeah.
Some of these Montessori schools and some of the more alternative, like early education schools, are all about learning how to think rather than learning the facts and the information you put in your head. Because all of that is available now. If you want to learn anything, you can find it right now. But you need to learn how to process that information. How do you incorporate it into the stuff you already know?
Right, yeah. What are you doing with that? Like, you could memorize a fact, but what the fuck does it mean?
Yeah.
How are you applying this, or is there any significance at all? Should you just, bury that one in the back,
Yeah. But I also worry about how he is going to perceive other people, because I think a lot of social media has changed us into a bit of a society of folks who have a surface thing going on, and then the people we actually are. And I don't know. I don't like that very much.
Yeah, that part definitely sucks. Bring back MySpace, you know?
Yeah.
I at least want to have a song playing to tell you what mood I'm in without having to tell you. So you know I'm sad today.
Did you ever have a band MySpace page?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I did.
Oh, man.
I had
too.
a band one, and I also had, one for me.
Yep.
Are those gone forever? Are those like on the Internet Archive somewhere?
I tried so hard to find mine. It was gone.
It's totally okay if they're gone because it would be very cringy. But I'd also be, little curious.
Well, can we talk about? I want to talk about something.
Okay.
I really appreciate the way you edit things. I've been lucky enough to sit down next to you with a laptop and watch you edit. Specifically, I'm thinking about the Zodiac intro, like the first moments in Monster the Zodiac Killer that you came out to San Francisco and you got on a laptop and you just cut that thing, and I watched you do it. I want to talk about how much an understanding of music, how important that is when it comes to editing, like any kind of audio or even video. I feel like rhythm, timing, and cadence, dynamics, all of those concepts that are very musical in nature, how important they are when you apply them to a listening or visual experience. Like, how do you do that?
To me personally, it's crucial. It's how I was ever able to get any better at it or train myself, teach myself, and learn how to be a better editor. I was never a good musician. I can hear it. I can hear melodies. I can visualize things, but when it comes to playing the drums with my hands, I don't have the coordination, or painting a picture, it's going to look terrible. But I've always been able to visualize things from a young age. And so when it comes to editing, I started editing super young in my life. My dad bought one of the first Macs. It was the iMac that had the different colors. Mine was the blue one. And the first generation came with the iMovie suite and GarageBand. And so I started editing my own videos. And back then it started off as mini VHS tapes. And I'd had to basically play it through this device into the computer to import it at real time.
Yeah.
And then I would take that, and because it would just all be one clip, I'd have to go in there and cut it up specifically. Actually, let me go back further. The first editing I technically did was on the camera itself, before there was iMovie or a consumer-friendly editing software.
Yeah.
I would take my VHS camera and I would do a shot. If I didn't like it, I'd rewind it and try to pause it at that right spot, and then hit record and record over it.
Yeah.
Do that over and over again. And so for a lot of my early, childhood home movies with my siblings in it, there's occasionally this weird blip of and that wasn't supposed to be there, or a stop start.
Oh, that's so great, man.
But it started that way. And then once I had iMovie, I was like, wow, this makes this so much easier. And then I went from there to Final Cut. And then they got rid of Final Cut,
they changed it.
They changed it and eventually moved on to Premiere. And so, in the history of how I got here in my career, I was always into video, always into storytelling. I started making my own music in GarageBand, just, on the keyboard, loops, and creating different melodies and, singing on them, and then editing that. And then I also would edit the music videos for those. And then that turned into me eventually doing music videos for other artists full time. And, a music video is basically an edit to a song. And so there's an important cadence and pacing that is just kind of obvious. And then it becomes, okay, well, how do I get creative with this to where it's not just, cutting on every single beat, but, how can I, what works visually to the eye And that just takes time to learn and experience. And so when I started editing podcasts, it was in some ways a lot easier because there was only one thing to focus on. It was just the sound. But then it became, oh shit, it's just the sound. So if I'm in the basement of this, archive place and there's records all around me and it's, 30-foot ceilings, an establishing shot in a video could tell you that immediately without me saying anything or there being no sound. But how do I do that? How do I tell you the same thing without always having to literally tell you that? Or what are clever ways I can take you somewhere and then explain as least amount as possible so I don't sound redundant? Or when do I really need to tell you what's going on and what this looks like so you can get what I'm talking about? And that's been a kind of a fun thing to learn, I think, as I've made more and more podcasts over the years. And it's like a constant puzzle I'm trying to solve is, how do I, make the perfect podcast or something? How do I make it better than the last one, right?
Yeah, good Lord. That kind of pressure, man. I
appreciate that, though. I've just edited for a long time, and it just is absolutely just repetition. And I would probably cringe at a lot of my old edits. Sometimes you have the tendency to cut it way too fast.
Yeah.
And so eventually I had to learn that even though it's sounding correct in this moment, it is too fast. And kind of just tweak that even though my brain's telling me otherwise. Then if I go take a break for an hour and come back, oh yeah, I was right. And so I'm wasting less time. My decision making is not as stalled. I can make them quicker. The faster you make those basic decisions, the sooner you can get to doing something maybe even more creative, which might take more time or trial and error, right?
For any early editors out there, I think the best piece of advice I ever got was respect the rest, as in the rest musically, right? So you've got a bunch of notes if you're thinking about your edit, you got a bunch of beats, and then the rest becomes the most important thing in all of that.
Yes.
Because it gives you time to remember what was just said and really internalize it, crystallize a thought about it, then move on to the next thing. And you you anticipate the next thing, and you can really build that anticipation. And that's why I love Mav so much, Makeup and Vanity Set, that does a lot of the music.
Oh, he's amazing.
Matt is just incredible. And when you've got a good piece of music to edit to, just like you were talking about with the music videos, it changes, it changes my mood in the edit, when I'm physically there doing it. Because I like listening to the track a bunch of different times as I'm trying to get,
No, it's for me, it's inspo, right?
Yeah.
It's harder to get into some dark, mood when you're talking about a serial killer or something if you're not hearing some brooding, droney sound that kind of takes you there and reminds you of how deep and scary this shit really is, right? And so editing to that is way easier, even if it's just temp. But I've also had to learn how to just kind of do it, just raw dog it, kind of envision it and almost edit to a pace to where I think this is probably more a testament to how Mavs and I have, I guess, grown in our creative relationship together, kind of knowing what to expect from him and vice versa. I can kind of almost at this point, and I just recently did it, make an entire thing, and I can visualize or imagine the spacing that I'm putting in there. One, for where my VO will go. Two, kind of a little reprieve like you're talking about that Mavs will probably recognize in this. And he can score it, and for the most part, there's never a bunch of drastic bumping stuff around unless it sparks some new cool idea, which that happens all the time.
Yep.
And that's just even cooler than the first idea, right?
Yep.
Part of my drive is that I want people to connect to me through this vessel. And so that's still a really strong component of all the work I do. And I really don't feel inspired to do any creative work unless I have that feeling or unless I can create that in some way. And that's always an evolving thing. But yeah, just sing you a little clip. Play a little bit into the microphone. It's it's missing the VO. You'll hear the VO pockets, but it's basically the cold open for the next part of Up and Vanished.
Oh shit! All right, I'm turning it up. Hold on.
This will be an interview between Andy Clamser and Christine Piscoya. It's the 29th of September, 2016. Time now is about 2:24 p.m. and we're in the conference room at the Aurora Inn in Nome. How much did he drink that night? Did he have any shots?
He had shots with me, only a couple. We were drinking. I was feeling pretty drunk. I don't remember being at home.
What are your gut instincts about what you think happened to him?
I don't know. Where's his stuff? Mm-hmm. No backpack or no clothes, no nothing.
I heard rumors around town that there was a third roommate, but I've never seen a third roommate in that house.
There was also an issue with apparently texting your friends to try and get them to create an alibi to say that you were with them. What happened with that?
I was just nervous, man. I didn't know how to deal with it. I was just trying to save my skin.
Save your skin from what, though? It's not like you were doing anything wrong.
The roommate lied about his whereabouts on Saturday night, texted his friends trying to create an alibi.
He had fresh scratch marks on his face. No one knew where they came from. Like he was in a fight with somebody.
We came back without my son, without any answers, not a hint about what could have happened to him. I want you to find him.
I want to find my brother. I know he's murdered. I know he is. I know a lot of people know what happened to him.
Holy shit. Well, shit. Someone using his credit card after he's missing. They were using his credit card while the search was going on. Everything about this points to a homicide.
Payne, I have a video. I took it tonight. It has to do with Balderas. I'm scared. Because he didn't know I was recording. Trust me.
Trust me.
He said, hey, do you know who Joe Balderas is? And she said, yeah, he's been missing for a while. He was my roommate. And I said, oh, okay. And then he gestures like he's holding a rifle and looking into the scope. He holds the trigger, it goes. Immediately I was like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. So
okay.
I kind of wanted to hit you in the face with something right away, like, holy shit, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then start unpacking instead of just starting with dates and times.
Yes.
Like
you're already in it, right? Wow, man. God, cuz okay. I'll have a ton of questions. I'm not going to ask them right now because I don't want to spoil anything. When does that come out? When do I get to hear?
That will be out August 8th, which is actually 7 years to the day of the very first episode of Up and Vanished.
Holy crap, man. Congratulations.
Thank you, but also that's terrifying.
yeah, we've been doing it for a minute already. Wow.
Like, holy shit. So that song that you were hearing, Mavs obviously made that. It's dope. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a weird sounding song. I don't know if you saw this, but this is how we made that.
Do you like
Follow me, follow me.
Oh, that's sick, dude. That's awesome, man.
So like he chopped up like the and then you hear in the back this follow me to we did the same thing with Zodiac one time with one of the tracks.
Yes, I remember that.
Kind of turned like a voice note like into an instrument, and it just kind of creates this weird, like it sounds kind of human, almost like the uncanny valley in a way, where it's like it shouldn't sound as, but the opposite, like it shouldn't sound as human as it does, but it's like a drone or an instrument, but sounds like a voice a little bit.
Was the cat in there?
Do. So actually not that one. There's one that we made. This is really deep. Have you seen Sicario, the movie?
Yeah.
Well, like, soundtrack's crazy. It's always just just like this crazy intense, like whatever that is. And so we made like a really cool, like, and it's all from Sabrina's cat meowing, and we pitched it way down and did a whole bunch of shit to it, and it actually sounds crazy. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I want to talk more about High Strange when you're ready.
I'm ready. I'm very ready.
Dude, okay. Is there anything in High Strange that we didn't get to hear because you weren't allowed to put it in there, or you felt like it was too out there or something that you feel comfortable actually discussing, maybe vaguely?
I think that I tried to, like, my overall goal with at least the first installment of High Strange was to find like the most convincing, hardest to debunk UFO stories of our modern day, you know, in the last 50 years in America, that have like supporting evidence, whether it be actual tape or, you know, actually, one comes to mind. The Rendlesham Forest story. So we talked to Charles Holt and Jim Peniston, and they've both, you know, famously always claimed that this happened. I believe both of them, but Jim, when he told his story, which took, I swear to God, like 3 hours, I think he's just spent like so much time thinking about this and trying to explain it and writing books about it that he's almost created another like additional narrative to the story that maybe didn't happen. That sounds a little wonky. And so I left that part out because it sounded wonky, and Charles Hall will also say it sounds wonky. So I kind of left out both of them kind of beefing with each other. Charles Holt seems to feel like Jim Peniston is, you know, discrediting this story by saying some of the things that he's saying. And so to me, that kind of actually further validated the story. There was a lot of witnesses, but I think that Jim's story about seeing the craft and going up and touching it, and like this whole numbers thing, and like this code that he thinks means this and that, like he's just gone too far into hypothesizing what these things mean, or has imagined some of it up.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes it sound like it's in La La Land now. But what is true is that people saw stuff and it wasn't the lighthouse.
Yes.
And
it was not the lighthouse.
And they were very scared.
Yeah, man.
And no matter what it was, the government seemed to think it was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they'd ever make a big deal about a lighthouse that's always been there doing the same damn thing every night. So something else happened, and Dylan actually interviewed Charles Holt.
Yeah.
His was the most convincing interview because he was, you know, kind of reluctant to do this. Like, he's done it in the past, and he's felt like he's been taken advantage of or made to sound like a loony. And, you know, the same with Travis Walton. Like, these guys weren't chomping at the bit to talk and tell this story, they were like, God, I don't know if I want to relive this again. I don't know if I want to explain myself again and subject myself to this criticism, because the thing is, I know that I saw this, but I don't know what it was. I don't know how to explain it to you or convince you that it's true. It just is. And that would be frustrating, right? To go a lifetime having experienced an unexplained thing that was super impactful to your life and shaped your perception of the universe that you can't explain and people don't believe, or some people don't believe.
It makes me think about Ryan Graves and a lot of those military personnel and seeing the very specific thing that you described in your show. And it's a show we've
Tic Tac, right?
Yes. And some of the they call them, it's like spheres that are almost clear, and then there's something gray at the center of the sphere. Dude,
very strange, specific description there.
Yes. So
it just rings true and real to me.
I have a buddy used to play in a band with me. He lives in Augusta, in Augusta, Georgia, and he has been going outside every night and just bought a telescope and is attempting to get high quality footage of nightly UAP that are going over a very specific part of wherever he lives in Augusta. He wants to be a little vague, but the dude is one of the most reliable people I know, and he's talked to me for like 2 hours on the phone now at this point, like trying to explain that he's not crazy, and he's seeing these things that are lights in the sky of different colors that are releasing other lights, and it's happening nightly, and it's huge.
So
and
I'm just seeing these things,
and he's trying to capture it right now. Like tonight, he's going to try and capture footage and send it to me so I can send it to you, actually. But
please let me see this.
Yeah.
And if he ever wants, company.
Well, yeah, he's trying to get better optics. So I was like, well, dang, I need to talk to Payne and see what kind of optic, or, what kind of cameras he's rolling with right now. And if there's any way to attach a telescope or something.
I mean, we can rent a pretty big boy. We could rent one that's
Big
like,
boy?
I don't know what it would be, Dylan, but like, I'm sure Christian would be able to tell us whatever the most expensive long zoom is that we could strap on something and get, I don't know, capture it the best.
To be better than what he's working with right now. I don't know. I know that's like an off the wall thing, but this is a guy I trust that, I've got that music bond with. I've spent a lot of time
this
with
guy
him.
isn't just spinning his wheels here and then, talking on his ass. You're like, okay, I want to see what you're talking about.
Yeah. And he sounded scared. He said he's scared because it's
weird.
It's light in the sky kind of thing where he watched one of them light up a little forest that's right by his kind of rural property where he lives.
So kind of low then.
And he called the fire department, he said, because he thought there was a forest fire right there because this red-orange glow, the way it was
Sounds
glowing.
like Rendlesham a little bit.
It's exactly what I was thinking. I had images of it in my head when you were talking
they thought
about
the same thing just based on what it looked like from afar. Like the forest is on fire because there's red glowing light coming out of it.
Yeah. But he said he watched it go up over the tree line and exit. And I'm like, man. And it's when you hear something like that, I love this guy. I trust this guy. But you still, when you hear something like that, for me at least, you go, are you sure?
Are you sure that's what you saw though?
Yeah.
Right?
And it's because you kind of have to go into it with that attitude, or, you just walk around. What is that thing? Ben said it on his interview with you. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence or something like that.
It's very true. I don't know whose quote that is.
Yeah. But I just, it's, again, Ben and Nolan and I have like a set of quotes that we don't even attribute them to anybody anymore. We just say them and like,
You're right. They're just mantras at this point.
Yeah.
I think it's always a good thing to do. I mean, when something is so unbelievable, I know that crazy shit happens. I mean, people have been struck by lightning, literally.
Yeah.
Like more than once. Like the impossible has happened. The likelihood of these things may be next to zero, but sometimes absolutely crazy things happen, or, there is an unexplained thing that did happen that, we haven't been able to, wrap our minds around yet. I want to know your thoughts on the Trump assassination attempt.
Oh, Lord. Okay. So Ben and Noel did a special episode yesterday. They recorded it yesterday on July 15th as we were recording this. And they talked about it at length. I wasn't able to join them for that conversation. I've just been following it, kind of following the research in a doc we created, that mostly Ben created. And it's weird, man. It feels to me right now like there's so much junk being like, again, the thing I worry about with my son, there's so many theories and things that are flying around right now. I don't want to put my horses on any wagon right now, but it feels really weird to me personally that the Supreme Court decision came down about official, presidential stuff. Did you see that Supreme Court decision about, it's been applied mostly to Donald Trump's presidency, but it said that if there's any official actions that are taken while someone's in the White House serving as president, that president cannot be prosecuted for those no matter what. Congressmen cannot ask the president or any of the president's staff about their motives behind official actions. Basically, the president has immunity for anything that is done officially, right? And then you watch that happen, and I'm connecting dots here that are not connected, but you watch that happen, then you watch the performance of the debates and how terribly that went for everybody, basically.
Yeah.
And then, and then president could do anything. Current president does terribly. Then you start to think like, well, who would actually want that to happen? Who would want that terrible thing to happen? A former president being assassinated, which in my mind is a terrible thing, no matter how you feel about the guy.
Sure.
I think the only people that would be really interested are the moneyed powers, the lobbyists, the people who write the laws, the money that exists for all these campaign donations, all these people who are banking on having a certain president in place. I think you follow that money, and then you still won't make a connection to this young kid because I don't think anybody forced him to do it. I think.
Well, he's dead now, so.
Well, you'll never know, right? Which is like the whole Patsy thing. We were looking back at anybody, any of the presidential assassins that have ever existed. Basically, you don't really get to tell your story, and if you do tell your story, like in Sirhan's case, you either are a liar or you sound insane. Talking about, I have no recollection of what happened. I can't remember. Or if, James Earl Ray, who said he was innocent the entire time. Listen to the MLK tapes, by the way.
Please do. It's great.
It weirds me out, man. I don't think somebody paid him to do it or convinced him to do it. Right. At least at this moment.
Right.
I know that's boring. I'm so sorry, man. I mean,
no. I mean, like, you wouldn't have anything really to back that up confidently. Yeah, for me, like, my basic just overall knee-jerk reaction assessment is that here's a guy standing here and like there's a lot of questions I have. Like one, like, how does this guy get on the roof of like the only other building that has a vantage point to potentially shoot the president in the first place? Now, that could be human error. That could be an absolute, maybe the sheriff was taking a piss in the woods and didn't see this guy, whatever. But just the luck here, like the how close this was to something different.
Yep.
Like the fact that other people died and Trump got grazed by a bullet on his ear and it didn't take his fucking ear off. And there's these heroic images immediately that are objectively look like, wow, that's crazy, right? Like that's going to be in a history book. It's just so improbable.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that, like, I'm not inferring or suggesting that it's fake or it's a cover up. Real bullets were shot, real people were killed, right? But it's just, is he the luckiest person on earth? And both can exist. He could just have been that lucky. But I think when stuff is like that, where it makes you go, is this the luckiest guy on the planet? Don't we do that with everything else? You know, if you're in the casino, right, and you're on a heater on roulette, and you're just hitting everything, and you just win like $100,000 from like $500. What's going to happen? Security comes out because they're like, this is an anomaly. Yeah. They're not saying that you're cheating, but there's a possibility that you are, because this doesn't happen like that very often.
It's not supposed to.
And so it like warrants further investigation and inspection. You know, I think, and I hope that they release that. To me, it's the ballistics. Like, let's see, like, what came from where. That would tell me all the things that I think I don't really know.
Well, that's what the guys just did. By the time this comes out, that episode will have come out, and what they were looking at specifically were jurisdiction for that specific building, for the roof of that building.
Right.
And right now, the best understanding is that Secret Service did not. They believe and have said publicly that it was not their purview to check that building. That was local law enforcement. Local law enforcement, you know, at least according to the story, came up on the roof, found the guy, who then, you know, aimed the rifle at them, and then immediately aimed it at former President Donald Trump and started firing, like in that moment, you know, like it was
like a real quick,
real quick
thing. Yeah.
So for me, life is starting to resemble more and more the thing that we experience on one of these black screens, these black mirrors that we all look into all day long. I'm looking into two of them right now as we're talking. Mm-hmm. And I think since life, as we look around and the events we hear about, the real news stories are resembling more and more narratives that have been written, you know, by some guys who graduated from Harvard.
I know. It's like a story. It's a fairy tale, like in real life, you know?
The weirdness factor is creeping in and getting, it's increasing in a way that I'm uncomfortable with. And when anything happens now, you can hyper focus on every little detail and break it apart if you want to, in a way that will maybe even make you start to second guess or doubt the truth, like the full on actual facts truth. But if you break it down into its small enough pieces, you might start to doubt it, because you're like, but wait, how? Or wait, hold on, when? And you know, I do that to myself. I notice I do that to myself in my real world. With this whole like conspiracy theory thinking. Where you connect dots sometimes and aren't there.
Yeah, you got to check yourself. You know, you might be kind of constructing it versus finding it.
Well, yeah. But if you're not somewhat vigilant, or, you know, hopefully not hyper vigilant, you will miss things. And I've found that through personal experience in my life too, where you're just like, oh, I never saw that coming. But if I would have been paying attention in retrospect, oh yeah, I saw that. It's interesting when we find ourselves, each of us, in a place where we're in these social media bubbles, we're in our content bubbles on all the algorithms. We only see what kind of the machine learning decides we need to see.
That. They think I want to see weird shit. I don't. Only sometimes.
Give me the weird shit. Send it.
Not when I give my girlfriend my phone. I don't always look at that. Why does my Explore page look like that? That's crazy.
It's just skateboards. I like skateboards, but
I swear they're pushing it on us. It's bad.
Well, but we run the risk, all of us right now, of just being fully misinformed or the disinformation. We think the wrong stuff is reality. All of us, and I'm putting myself in that boat too.
Yeah,
it's a dangerous time to be a human that thinks. Especially a human that thinks about thinking.
I know. Or doesn't think very well.
Yeah, I'm in there too, man. I'm in there too.
Yeah, I mean, like when I saw, like, I'm pretty sure I saw like the main news shot of the assassination attempt within a minute of it probably happening.
Yes.
And my first thought, and this is, you know, only knowing what I knew then, which was nothing, I was like, wow, if this is real, could there be a better PR stunt? Like, whether it was on purpose or not, could there be a better way to frame him as a hero? I'm not saying that was intentionally done. Either way, that's the outcome.
Yep.
Right. I think general consensus is going to feel that way. I mean, shit, like he got shot at and survived it. That's crazy, right? So like that's a heroic thing in a lot of people's books, right? But I just thought like, wow, like for other people to die and be injured and him to get this like, tiny little ear cut, it's just like, and he didn't have blood all over his face. It was just like a nice little, it was just like perfect.
Yeah.
And it just like stuff like that makes me just go, how? And sometimes shit just happens like that. And so I remind myself that people get struck by lightning. The craziest shit in the world can happen. You can flip a coin 100 times and it can be tails. It's possible. It doesn't mean that it's likely to happen or that it does happen, but it can. And it just makes me be like, okay, am I missing something? It's still crazy either way that he left with just the most minor of injuries and is instantly, without a doubt, winning this election now.
Who knows, man? I felt like after that debate, it was pretty obvious who America would choose if you were given those two choices. And the whole thing that goes back and stuff that I want you to, we talked about this a long time ago. It feels like the whole system is rigged for us already. It's rigged for them, and we're the ones who get played because there are only two parties. You have basically two sides of the same coin, but it's the same coin, right? And it doesn't matter because in the end, it's all the same money. It's all the same corporations. It's all the same people who manufacture and ship and, pull resources out of the ground. It's all the same people that pull the reins on any politician in this country, unless you're on the local level or if you're, even some Congress people are not as easily, I guess, manipulated and coerced. But man, that's just my opinion, by the way. Maybe America has a great system that's perfect and I just don't understand it. I highly doubt it.
Right.
But because, if you look at the Electoral College, that's just really quick, I'll preach my show. Stuff They Don't Want You to Know has been looking at this kind of stuff since 2008, 2009. We've been making a podcast since 2013 where we try and make those connections. Where here's a really important thing you need to know about the political system and the Electoral College and the way laws are written by lobbyist groups, the way think tanks run those lobbyist groups, the way those think tanks are run by, people who used to run manufacturing corporations and how it's all this interwoven thing. And then how does all of that end up translating to where weapons go in the world, where they're deployed, who the enemy is of the United States? How that shapes up. And it always brings me back to Project Bluebeam. Do you remember that one, Payne?
I do, but give us the log line for those who may be unfamiliar with that.
That's the one where some government, probably the United States government through the Pentagon, is developing something with DARPA that is akin to, looks like, sounds like, feels like alien spacecraft, where they could develop something and fake an alien invasion so that all of planet Earth has a common enemy and we all come together and we unite as one. It is dude, I'm calling it now. Project Bluebeam.
Do you think that's true?
No, I don't think it's true. It's my favorite conspiracy theory.
Couldn't it also coexist with real aliens too?
Yeah, it could. That's the thing. And how would we know?
They could roll up and be like, yo, what the fuck? Like, we're them.
Think about the uncertainty that we just described with a 20-year-old man who got on a roof and fired a rifle at a former president. Imagine that there are things in the sky coming down and the news is showing us images of these huge craft that are the size of a small city or the size of a building or a football field. And they have desires and they have threats. And we just have to accept that whatever AP and Reuters and, whoever else is reporting it, we just have to accept that that's actually what's happening. And that the military information embargo would actually be giving us the truth because, it would be controlled. So I imagine that scenario.
Scary thought.
Yeah. What did Ben always says? We're fun at parties.
We're fun at parties. Invite us, please. We want to go to a party real bad.
We don't go. What's a party?
Yeah, we'll be weird. I promise. Yeah.
I'll bring my guitar, man. I've got an acoustic and a djembe. Let's go.
So, what are you looking forward to most in the podcast world, man? You've been in the game for a long time. You've made killer shows. You have a long-running successful show with Stuff They Don't Want You to Know.
Mm-hmm.
Love all those dudes. Love everyone at iHeart. What are you looking forward to next in your career, creatively or beyond?
Well, a couple of things. Personally, I am getting back into writing music again, kind of the way you were. We were discussing earlier. Just having a pretty crappy setup, but just writing melodies and beats and that kind of thing again. And I'm loving it. I'm just doing
fun,
that,
man. It's good for your brain creatively too, to kind of take yourself there, especially when you're doing, complex long form storytelling. I think it's a good kind of balance. And I don't know. Yeah. I wish I could play instruments the way that you do, but I can appreciate it in the same way, in a different way, kind of collaborating with Mavs on stuff. And it's a good time, and I feel like it's a good use of that muscle.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I'm excited about that stuff. I'm excited about the fourth official season of Monster BTK, which I don't know how much we can talk about it yet, but it's coming this year, 2024.
Yeah, it's coming. It's going to be an absolutely insane show. I spent a lot of days actually, talking with BTK's daughter.
Yeah.
Very sweet, strong-willed person, and has suffered the unimaginable, and is able to talk about it and openly.
Oh, dude.
And it's very impressive, and it's very enlightening, and it's also very sad and very, very scary.
Yeah.
Some of the stories that she told us. But yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing that and putting it out.
Yeah, man. People are going to get a really interesting look into that dude via Carrie. And then you got to talk to John Douglas again, too, which is one of my... I love that guy.
I talked to him about that case.
Yes, exactly.
It feels like that was forever ago. I think it was forever ago.
Like 21, maybe? 22.
Yeah. Love that dude. Like the real Mindhunter guy. He was so great, too. He was super nice. And yeah, he's he's the GOAT. Like he kind of, defined a serial killer, which sounds insane. But
yeah.
Jeez,
man. And there's another new show coming out it's true crime, but it's more historical mystery. And it's the time that two women separately attempted to assassinate President Ford. Two women unsuccessfully attempted to assassinate
Unrelated.
Ford. Unrelated. But it's about to come out in September. And we're finishing it up right now. Creator Toby Ball is making it, who does Crime Writers On and a bunch of other shows.
Oh, no, I love Toby. He's great.
He did Strange Arrivals too. But this is his kind of brainchild. And
he'd be great at that. That's I vaguely remember him, I think, mentioning this to me at Podcast Movement one time. We had a couple beers and we're talking about podcasts. But yeah, no, he's great. That'll be awesome. I'm looking forward to that.
It's intense. Well, man, Payne, I just got to tell you, I love everything you do, man. And getting a little text like that you just sent me, like a piece of music, a trailer, something that is like getting me all excited about the next UAV or whatever. That's one of my favorite things that can happen on my phone, dude. So thank you.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate you always responding and like listening to it and having anything to say about it at all. That's flattering and is fun to share, just like, under the hood of like what we're working on, like, hey, check this little nugget out,
Well, I just hope I never mean to just be flattering to you, because I give criticism of, I get notes on things all day long.
And great. No, I know, and I appreciate it. Yeah, dude. Like I'll sing you some more. I got some more cooking up.
Yes, I can't wait.
I got you. But yeah, man, this has been fun, dude. Long overdue, and I'm excited about all the stuff we got coming out together. And I'll be sure to float you some interesting little clips here in the next few weeks as we gear up for the next installment of UAV.
Heck yeah. Oh, hey, I forgot. Subscribe to Flashpoint. That's a brand new show that's coming out, Tenderfoot and iHeart. It's
yes. You can subscribe now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go right now. Subscribe to Flashpoint. It's so good.
Out on your podcast app. Don't be lazy. You can keep listening to it right now and also go do that. So, go do it.
Bruba, go.
One of y'all, you're driving, pull over safely whenever you can.
That's right. And get stuff they don't want you to know in there too. And make sure, look, you must be subscribed.
And give me $1 million. And also, what else do we want? What do you want for Christmas?
I want High Strange season 2.
We're cooking. Dylan's actually been hard at work, and we're gonna flip it a little bit. Like it's still gonna be, it's gonna be the perfect second season. I think we're gonna enter the, we're gonna dip our toe in the land of the cryptids a little bit too.
Yes. Oh.
And UFOs too.
Okay.
But some of the craziest ones of those, and there's some fun ones that are hard to explain. So,
yes.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Beautiful. Can't wait, man.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for doing this.
Talking to Death is a production of Tenderfoot TV and iHeart Podcasts, created and hosted by Payne Lindsey. For Tenderfoot TV, executive producers are Payne Lindsey and Donald Albright. Co-executive producer is Mike Rooney. For iHeart Podcasts, executive producers are Matt Frederick and Alex Williams, with original music by Makeup and Vanity Set. Additional production by Mike Rooney, Dylan Harrington, Sean Nerney, Dayton Cole, and Gustav Wild for Cogito. Production support by Tracy Kaplan, Mara Davis, and Trevor Young. Mixing and mastering by Cooper Skinner and Dayton Cole. Our cover art was created by Rob Sheridan. Check out our website, talkingtodeathpodcast.com.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Talking to Death. This series is released weekly, absolutely free. But if you want ad-free listening and exclusive bonuses, you can subscribe to Tenderfoot Plus on Apple Podcasts or go to tenderfootplus.com.